Destroy it. No, contact!
Hold the line!
5, 2, 3, 1. Yep, direct taking fire.
And we are live.
Hello and welcome to another episode of No Man's Land. And my name is Avitus. We're joined here by Reza, the leader of 82DK. Say hello, Reza.
Hello, guys.
And Dark Leftovers, our High Command Artillery Specialist.
Oi, what's up?
He's also our resident orc. And we have our special guest with us here today as well, infantry expert and High Command leader Kazanski.
Greetings.
And we have a spicy meatball for you today, gentlemen. Very spicy and very meaty. I'm sure many of you saw the dev stream, and I am very, very excited to talk about the things that we have for you today.
Let's start it off with some good stuff right now. We've been watching some other people, and we wanted to take a chapter from their book. We want to broadcast to you guys our very own community highlights.
Shocker.
Razor, if you could take the wheel on this.
Yes, indeed.
Without elves, I hope.
No, it just felt like a few things kind of went through the cracks, and I think we felt the need to shut them off real quick for you guys. I know some people
No
are gonna...
anime.
No
No anime.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Nothing weeby
No.
here. No worries.
Indeed.
Burn them.
That type of thing is purged.
Right, let's just jump straight into it. So what we've got here is, and I know a few of you already know the work of Commander Rod. Out of the top of my head, for instance, we can just put in the anthem for our own clan and the anthem for the Wardens more recently. This is actual text. I know, maybe we can not have patience for text most of the time, but this is really good text. This is actually him putting down if you want, a biography of his character in Foxhole and in the Foxhole community. So it has a lot of a history of the of what happened in Foxhole since he started playing.
That's
Perfect.
fucking cool.
You put in.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
Link in the chat.
It's everything's based on real stuff that actually happened in Foxhole and happened with his clan, the Roughnecks, and such. So it's a really good read.
Some of their stuff is absolutely insane. I mean, I've said this a few times already, but if you guys haven't listened to his like audio thing of the tank when he's got his tank, the Roughneck tank when they're in the tank, oh my god, that is something that's like Oscar worthy. It really is, and you feel like you're there with them in the tank. I highly recommend that you look that up, guys, and give that a listen, because it really is good.
Yeah, so make sure you hit Rod. He's like really a really good artist on more fronts. So he does voiceovers, he does a lot of stuff. Make sure you check his stuff out because it's really,
Thank
really
you for
good.
the follow, you non-essential skill.
Hold up, he's not sponsored yet, so don't give him that much praise.
We'll charge him by the hour next time. Don't worry. Right. This is something you sent me, I think, Dark, from
Thank you for
Boom.
the follow, you non-essential skill.
Yeah, so he did a little rendering and model of a mobile artillery truck. It's a nice little thing I saw. He was pitching the idea if this could be up in Foxhole.
Unsurprisingly, it does look colonial, fitting in with Boom's heresy.
It's a little too green.
It's not Boom Lover. Don't confuse him.
Oh,
Different
all right.
Boom.
Well, I was going to say, well, we do have a heretic called Boom, so I can be forgiven for that.
You can tell the difference is by the amount of capitalization by his name and the exclamation point at the end.
Oh yes.
Fine difference.
I'll use this little pause here to thank Rod and Antraxon for
Thank
the
you for the
follow.
follow, you non-essential scum.
And
Yeah.
Commissar General.
Let's move on to the next one. We don't
Sure
want to
thing.
be
Yeah,
like
fuck
a-
this. Let's go.
Absolutely,
another
absolutely.
another stream where they spend 10 minutes on something.
No, we'll stay
Oh,
mobile.
holy shit! Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, this is one of the big things we really think got, missed, and it really shouldn't have, because like we've saw a lot of stuff from Klaus and Hans on their modeling stuff, but like nothing, and I do mean nothing compares to this bad boy. Like from the details to the painting to the little, like look at the center image with like the little grass and the sandbag and
You
the
know what I'd
barbed
love to
wire.
see on that
Jesus.
model? You know what I'd love to see on that model? Like a little colonial soldier, like crouched behind the sandbags, like looking up at the tank. You know,
What is that?
like, oh god, they've come.
Well, if Klaus is not listening right now, he's definitely listening later. So
Yeah, do that,
I would
Klaus.
love.
Get that done.
I think I'll talk about it later, but so far, I mean, I absolutely just love. I can't stop looking at the model. Like, I would wish to just have my one just for sale and just paint my own, because that just looks so good. Is it me? Like the image on the top left one, does it look like there's like rust in between the gaps? Is that just me? Because that
yeah,
looks
yeah,
like
that's
fine.
that's some
something they've
touch,
done.
yeah, from
Yeah, it's-
Klaus.
Oh, that's so good.
Also,
yeah, it's
Commissar,
awesome,
this is 3D printed. Yes, Hans is like working insane hours to just like make the models for this stuff, and then Klaus paints them and does all this like crazy, like effects for it. It's not like just like a brush paint and that's it. He does all the details and the environment for them as well.
I
Yeah,
do
it's
know
sick, man.
that the four pictures, the middle, the right, the bottom right, and the bottom left, are the first we got to see. But the top left one seems to be a very updated one. We'll wish we could see more of that. Maybe we could keep tabs on that and just see the progress he makes. Because so far, that's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, as we promised, we're gonna keep going, because we'll put
Yeah,
this.
forget this shit. Let's go.
We're gonna stay mobile.
So
Oh man,
as a connoisseur of fine art, this gentleman from WN, Lizek, he is a known artist, and gracefully enough, he has really, I think, underwhelming. I think a lot of people don't know a lot about his work, and he's been doing like a lot of PDFs of everyone's of
yeah.
their profile pics, and like just
I had
look
no
at the
idea
sheer
he'd done that
amount of.
many.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's generally like almost all of them. And just give a second to go full screen and just appreciate every single one by one. A little bit biased on ours because I mean, gotta
That's
have.
I was looking at it earlier on when you linked it in chat, and I'd look at yours. I thought that was that's brilliant. You know what I mean? With
I
the
know. I do think mine was the one that had the most love, and I
yeah,
cherish
it
it
was
always.
it's really good. I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold. Also, the background image on the Warden Anthem is also made by Lisek. I think it's really cool the way he depicted the bulwark in there. It looks
I
really
think
cool.
we're really lucky to have the artists and the the people that are good with music and editing in the Warden faction, because we have some really good stuff coming out of our artists and stuff like that. So keep up the good work, guys. Very
We're a team of
impressed.
artists. What can
so
we
far.
say? The best people in the world were artists. Don't dwell on that. But Lizek also made the lyrics for the anthem,
Yep.
with editing help from Rod and Klaus himself. Don't quote me on that.
But it is true. Right, keeping
Quote me on that.
the ball rolling. So I'll explain, because not even like Dark or Avitus or Kaz have any idea what this is. in the spirit of, we had some pictures and stuff, I thought, well, we should have some video, especially as Avitus showed some stuff last stream with the footage.
Yes.
So what I went and do, there's nothing fancy here, just keep that in mind. It's just a few moments I put together from my archive, and I really want to share with you guys. These are most
Awesome.
of them never before seen, like by anybody.
Brand new footage, everyone.
So give me a minute, I'll set us up. Right. So the first thing you're gonna see here is extremely rare because it is from a little thing called the dev test that used to happen when we actually
Wait a minute, Razor. Why isn't this pixelated?
big
Shouldn't this be pixelated?
behave. So the general idea, this is from the first dead harvest. This is when we basically check to see how it works before the dead harvest started. I'm just gonna start it on the back here because there's no point. I mean, I let a little more of it just play, so it takes a minute. The general idea, what I want to showcase is look at all the people on that, on the left in that Discord chat, and this would be not that often, but I think this was an important part of what kept the content pretty good. I'm pretty sad they decided to, to give up on it. They were pretty fun. I'm not gonna not tell you they were not fun. And this kind of shenanigans, really made it better. Yeah, basically this was just like intended as a little moment to have as a memento of those times. So I'm happy I did record it because now I can share it with you guys.
Is this it?
Yeah, well, we're gonna rush the church here in a second, but I didn't want to give out too much. This was supposed to be secret, remember? I mean, it's 2 years later,
Waiting for a good climax.
a good climax. Yeah, there we go.
Best kind of zombies, tactical zombies. Oh yes.
Yeah, this was the first one though. So none of the second shenanigans. Here, zombies were really, really good.
He died with the first wave, and then everyone else is
And
having
and,
fun.
and this is the dev test for this mod.
Yeah, basically. This is like really old. This is DR footage from fucking 3 years ago.
Oh
This is-
god,
some shit.
yeah. Look at those inventories. Look how old that is. God.
Look what we're using to destroy the fob, though.
Yeah, sticky grenades. That's brilliant. Look
Before
at
they
how
were
many.
bad.
Good job. God damn it. Good job.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a tunnel letter right there,
For,
kids.
for those of you who don't know, by the way, guys, like before it got patched, sticky grenades were insane at taking out buildings. You could like pop two on a gun nest and it just popped the gun nest. Absolutely crazy. All purpose, really. There was no need in taking HE grenades after sticky grenades were invented.
So, if you pause here for a bit, you can hear Ivan playing his accordion. The reason why this footage is important is this is the actual Overlook Hill. The actual Overlook Hill that was defended for like 5 days. The one that FFL can stop talking about still.
They like to say their own.
I know some of you are gonna get PTSD when they see this fob next to the this is exact configuration. At some point the colonials were so close that they could shoot at the entrance of this fob, so.
But we held, brothers.
Also, Ivan was doing logistics in the scrap field for the entire trip. Like, he can tell you about it. It's pretty fun.
But wait, Razor, didn't Overlook Hill only lasted like less than a day?
It's fine. We don't need to go into the specifics of it. I just thought it was
Nothing.
cool. Speaking of Ivan,
Special delivery.
this is also very important because you know how the colonials like to market their mortar blobs as their own strategy. This is probably, again, like 2 years old or close to that, 1 year and a half old.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the bridge is Abandoned World itself. I sped it up a bit because it was really anticlimactic to just go through the entire thing. But yeah, DK was doing mass blobs of mortars a long time ago, is what I wanted to point out.
I think whenever mortars were there, they were always masked by us.
Yeah, and it was really good fun having immense groups of people just doing it. And this is a treat. I'll just shut up for this one.
Oh wait, the bridge.
It's down.
Fuck
It's
it.
down. Shotgun lover. Here they come across. They're coming across.
Oh my god.
Oh, and all squad leaders, ask your squad if anybody wants to go and build. Because we're low on manpower on CP.
Holy shit! We got two over.
Everyone is going across. What the fuck? Evidence was saying the bridge is down. Back up.
By
Back
the
up.
way, Razor, do you have
Witness
shirts
me.
for your...
Yeah, so that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
Right, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Right.
Toss away that salad. It's time for the main course.
So I'll just jump in through the first slide, I guess, because like there's no reason to lose more time. The seaports. This is gonna be interesting.
Indeed.
I think there is because
Well,
I remember Logi complaining about this for a
I'm-
long time.
It's needed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are niche times when this works for us when we use
Kaz,
this.
you're in this stream? Holy fuck.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I just woke up. I saw pictures.
That's his cue.
Yeah, I mean it's built-in garrison defense AI. That's good. Many major seaside towns. So there's one of these in like for each faction in every water map, basically. I would imagine there would be one for each faction.
Well,
It says many.
hopefully a lot of points where you can transit between. I'm just talking from what I know from Logi and from Iwan, especially when we were doing convoys and stuff. There was always this complaint about the way the water access was set. It was always not properly set up so you can bring stuff from the back line to the front line. So
See, this is
they changed the map a lot in that aspect. And with these things, hopefully what can happen is Iwan can get his convoys all the way from the back maps to wherever we're fighting.
so have they improved water access with the new maps or something?
Yes, I'm gonna actually probably look for the new map for the next stream or something. But they changed
Right.
a lot at looking at the map.
Yeah, because that's something I've been saying for years. You know what I mean? They keep on pushing this thing about we want waterlogy. We're introducing all this stuff to help you with waterlogy, but they never looked at the main reason why waterlogy just wasn't viable for most of the map, and that's because there's just no access. You know what I mean? You got that river that runs through the entire map, but all my time playing Foxhole, I don't think I've ever traveled the length of it in one life, because at some parts it's so narrow that there's almost, and it like in places like next to abandoned ward and things like that, like you got absolutely no chance of getting through there. You know what I mean? Unless your faction owns the entire length of the river, then there's no real point in you even doing that logi. So I think if they want to push waterlogy like they've been trying to do for the past couple of years, they need to make a substantial change to access from water-based things like wider rivers and things like that are going to be necessary for any type of improvement to Navy. And it is only a matter of time before they improve the Navy as well. Obviously, they were introducing that gunboat variant, but I think there's a lot more to come.
So
I mean, no matter what, this is a net good for the game.
I'll
The game
put
benefits from this.
I'll put the map right now on screen, the before and after, because Wes was kind enough to send it to us.
All right, that's good. Yeah.
So you guys can have a look here and see how things changed.
See, yeah, exactly like I was saying, because they've widened a lot of the rivers
Yeah.
because there was too many choke points across the rivers. So yeah, a lot of the rivers have just been widened, haven't they?
Yeah, I think it's really good. Also, like as people are pointing out, if you look at Ogmoran and the Moors, now it has like a proper river next to it out of nowhere. You know, that's really good. That's really good because now
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I didn't notice
also
that actually.
you can look at Farnak. Farnak now has access from Stone Cradle. There's like that little access that permits
Oh
to
yeah,
bypass, you know, all of this bullshit you had to go around in the past.
oh, that's good.
You know
So
that also, if you look at Ogmoron, like that empty space up top has been replaced with water, so like nothing crazy is gonna be or nothing pestering is gonna be on the north. You know what I mean? Because I know that was always a problem. Was some partisans be fucking around from the upper north, and you can't do anything because it has the map or the town was located so close to the fucking border. Like you build anything, it's gonna decay.
See, some of that I noticed they've taken out though. You see, is it the islands? What's the name of those islands to the west side of the map? They've taken away that choke point in the northeast.
well, what happened there? They tried to make it more accessible because you know people had to spend hours to just like go between areas there, and it's basically a lot more bridges in that area, which people already are starting to complain about. But yeah, you know, on the long run, I think you know accessibility is important. So making it more accessible. Oh, by the way, because we're here and might as well, you know, just say it. The Drown Veil had a lot of revamping to it, Avitus. There's not like all the shallow water got removed, and there's
Oh, really?
and there's no more like you know those wooden like structures, and yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gone as well.
Oh well.
Yeah,
I mean,
Good riddance.
yeah. I mean, the boys will have nightmares about Drown Vale and probably be thankful for any type of change to that map. To tell you the truth.
Amen.
Okay, that's enough about this shit. Just fucking go to the next one, dude.
the coastal guns are still part of it, I guess. But
The anti-fuck you.
yeah, but we can go a bit faster on these. They're basically just gonna say no, you're not allowed to anything water related from what they explain. So anything that comes.
But think about this for a second.
Go ahead.
Like one thing that we've noticed a lot, especially in some of the wars that have had lower populations, is yeah, how many times did you have your coastal cities just get PVE constantly by gunboats and other things? So this is
Yeah.
at least a stumbling block to some of that activity that's really positive for the game.
I just don't feel as if that is a problem anymore. I mean, yeah, I guess it is a problem in like things
huge
like
problem.
Endless Shore and things like that, taking out Wellchurch and stuff. But I mean, I get a feeling. I mean, water-based vehicles have a real problem at the moment anyway with lack of firepower. I mean, I know gunboats have things in their own right, but unless the new damage models affect gunboats in a way that like them make them more survivable or something like that, this is going to be a real fucking problem for people that like playing naval stuff.
I'm
Well, I think
personally
you can
go
still
ahead.
have your you know what's the word I'm looking for? You'll still have your naval action for those who specialize and know how to use the vehicles. This is just more as a deterrent to protect the main hubs, the main logistic areas, because I'm pretty sure you can plan an assault where before we invade the area, you have to take down the guns, so you have to get a small invasion force to, Navy SEAL to satchel
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah, that'd be
just-
cool. Yeah,
It just depends on where these are placed to some extent, right? So, like, these may not be around Wellchurch unless Wellchurch. It's only going to be around seaport areas. So unless Wellchurch is a
Right.
seaport, it's not going to be there.
right. So, I mean, there is something that I would like to clarify before we go on to the next slide. There will be no warning shots from the Warden versions of these guns. We don't do warning shots against heretics, so we can move on now. Just need to make that point.
We just miss.
Yeah, if we miss, we miss. If we hit, we hit. You know, it's just one of those things.
We always hit. Shitty man.
Right. So it's talking about logic, as Kaz brought up logic in the other slide. You know, I don't know how many of you watched the dev stream, but I'll just explain it really, really simple. So everybody gets basically free squad stock, the old squad stockpiles, but everybody gets free of them, and they're not attached to any squad anymore. And you can have 100 crates of each item in them, and you can share them whoever the fuck you want. I honestly like, and I've read a lot of opinions about this, but I think overall, if you just like are not picky about it, I think this is probably the biggest step in the right direction Logi took for a long time now, because of the potential of, you know, of an organized group using this properly. The only thing I'm a bit skittish about is the security method, which was showcased as a 4-digit code. And if they think that there's not gonna be any asshole out there who's just gonna like randomly type in codes until he gets into a stockpile, I think they're mistaken. That's just me.
001, 0012, 0012.
It can if someone gets good at it, they can try every combination within 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not there's a throttle if you get the password wrong, so to speak. Yeah. So
You
there's
need
some kind of
superior
protective, but-
5-digit code.
Yeah, either a bigger number of digits, or like that being one thing, and then like just like a security system. If somebody tries to spam codes in, that just stops them from doing that for like half an hour, and then you know what I mean. It might be annoying even for, you know, honest people that didn't get the code right the first time, but it's really important they figure out a way that they keep away thieves, basically, in this case.
I think this is fine. Like, and this is so sad, but it's the first thing I think of is I think Rust. Like, Rust has 4-digit codes for the doors. If any of you guys are Rust players, and it works because there's a deterrent on it if you get a certain number of attempts wrong. And so long as there's a deterrent,
Starts killing you.
yeah. So in this case, it just needs to be a cooldown. Like you get 20-minute locked out or something like that. It'd be
Or
fine.
it could just increase like every time you fail, just increases longer and longer. I think that's the simplest fact, is put a natural deterrent for people to fucking stop trying to spam it. Because if I could just go, nope,
Yeah.
nope, for like 30 minutes, I'm gonna get your fucking shit.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna fucking get it.
Calm
Now,
down,
even without the precaution, it's worth noting, even if there was nothing to stop it, it's highly improbable, even if somebody has limited attempts, that they're going to really get there. I mean, that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of dedication, but the security measures should still be in there.
Yeah, but like time and dedication is what a lot of people have. So like I said, as long as there's some way, and I
get you.
I hope they thought it out. What I really think we should like discuss a bit is like the possibilities behind this. This is really, really cool for like organized groups, in my opinion, because similar to how they presented it, you can have like free tier of access. Basically, you can have one stockpile that you share with everybody from your clan, for example, and then you have an inner stockpile that you share with your section in the case of DK. So you have one for everybody, one for artillery, and then a third one that you just keep for like yourself and the people in command or some stuff like that with really sensitive equipment.
My question is, like, how many can you personally have access to, right? So like, let's say a whole bunch of us have our own individual stockpiles. We just bring Iwin in on all of them, and Iwin has access to like 15 players, different stockpiles. Like, how would that even look in the UI?
Does
that make sense?
So from what Mark showed, if you look on the picture where it says Clapfoot OP there, you just click on that little arrow, and then all these different stockpiles you have access to appear.
But there's no limitation to the number of stockpiles you can have access to.
I'm pretty sure it just acts like a tab.
Yeah, we'll see if they introduce a limitation. They didn't say anything about limitation though, so I guess
It says no limitations otherwise. You see it right there.
Yeah, but I take it with a grain of salt.
I'd say it would be a logical thing to do, but when we are talking about Clapfoot, so
No names, please. Keep it civil, boys.
Don't be bullies. I guess DevStream is gonna reveal the case here. I don't think it's a bad thing though. The more the merrier, if you ask me.
Sure, more flexibility is good. I'm down for that. I think it's in concept, as you said, better than what we have today.
Right. I don't think we need to dwell more on this unless Avidus and Dark have anything else.
No.
Speaking about really important changes that we've been probably waiting for all our lives, this is one. So finally, the containers can actually be put on the barges now.
Can you double stack them?
I doubt it. They didn't say, but I doubt it, mate. I really don't think.
Nah, I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be like, it's when you place it on a barge, it's gonna snap to the middle, and then if you try to stack on top, it's gonna be like, nah.
Yeah, well, we'll see if the new river system is good enough, and we actually do manage to pull waterlogy off. I think it will become a quick and easy way of like these AT guns and long-barreled AT guns that we're probably going to talk about soon as well. Like those are going to have to get shipped to the front and stuff like that. So I think waterlogy, if they introduce more tools for it in the near future, I'm not talking about a year. I'm talking about like next update territory. Like variants for the barge and stuff with that, with extra security, extra speed, blah blah blah. I think it could be a viable option to do waterlogy again.
Waterlogy was almost viable already, and was
Almost.
we made it work through sheer determination. So it's close.
That's the thing, dude. It like we can make it work with great amounts of effort, but if you're trying to make something happen more, it shouldn't be something that you should have to put a great deal of effort into. You get what I'm saying?
Shouldn't have to feel like a fucking real life job trying to fucking organize something.
Naturally.
Yeah. And if one of these things sink, you know what I mean? It's a big loss of resources and things like that. So security has always been a big issue for waterlogy. Hopefully that'll get changed in the future, though, with the introduction of.
Well, I will get close to what changes on that, but we are now into Kaz's favorite activity, so I really am gonna insist on him getting a chance to speak because
Take the wheel for this, buddy.
I know how much he loves.
My
For
pleasure.
some reason.
My pleasure. This drives me crazy. Like this change for a lot of reasons that may because I don't do logi. Like this is not known to most people, but this is insane to me because like one of the main things that bothers me about Foxhole mechanics and Foxhole are mechanics that are designed to not be fun in any manifestation. I don't know anybody that enjoys the activity of just sitting here slamming their head against a object, like doing these kind of resource gathering things. They enjoy what they give to the team, and they enjoy giving their time and supporting the team. But this activity itself is absolute nonsense from a gameplay design perspective. And this change here, in my mind, they say they're doing this to break up monotony, but they're adding more monotony on top of monotony, and they're doubling down on a mechanic that's inherently ridiculous. And so this is really, really bad design from how we get resources. And I think, I could spend a lot of time talking about how you would redesign this. I just know that this mechanic is unsustainable for us to have resources and resource gathering in a healthy way that's good and enjoyable for the player base. This is ridiculous to me.
Well, someone doesn't like it.
Hate it.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on it because it's sort of like I let other people handle that. I just charge it for an net. It's like
we wouldn't soil ourselves with such menial labor.
But that's exactly the point, right? Like you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Most of DK doesn't want to do it. We have to fight with people to get some people to give of their time. And that's what it is. It's a gift. It's a job to get this done. It's ridiculous.
It's like, oh, what section do you want to join, Mr. Rib? Oh, I was thinking about joining Logi. Really?
Thank you for
Okay.
the follow.
Paint him a big picture. It's going to be awesome. And then
it's like,
you throw
we
him,
really
the
need
door.
Logi. Welcome to 82DK. Roll out the welcome mat for him. This guy's a
Then as soon
Logi.
as
Thank you for the
Be
follow.
really nice
to him.
Social scum.
push him in.
All right, lock him in.
Well, somebody in chat gets it here, right? Like, again, they added more tediousness to this by saying, like, okay, now you've got to do more walking to get existing. Like, get out of here, dude. This is ridiculous.
think we just lost like probably all of our Logi future from now on. They know the truth now.
Well, it's a funny part. By the way, thanks guys for all the follows and attention. I wanted to showcase something. When Iwan gets a new recruit in logistics, he has this like 2-page thing he pastes every time with like he has mapped out a base there with like where everything is, and he just gives the new recruit like a welcome message that is 2 pages long about where everything is.
All right, here's the manual. Good luck, soldier.
Basically that, yeah. And it kind of goes on to what Dark was saying. You know, when there's a new guy and he wants to be in Logi, everybody's like, oh, another Logi player. You know, like everybody make sure he's comfortable. Quickly, go get
You're not wrong though. You're not wrong.
whatever he needs.
Just
He needs
become
to
a
have
broken
it.
man.
Whatever he asks for, just make sure it happens. Get free rips to sit next to his barracks and do whatever he needs. Okay, let's keep it rolling. This is actually a good one here with the emplacement trenches and basically the way it allows you to just build new networks of trenches, which is a really bad idea. Tell us about it, Dark.
The rule what idea? What do you say?
I said, you know, it gives you a lot of more depth into building more trenches, which is a really bad idea. And I asked you to tell us more about it.
Well, I mean, trenches are probably been the biggest thing that really like stagnate the gameplay. Everyone feels safe being in a trench. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to play with it, but as far as how Foxhole works, trenches are just. I mean, just think about the world wars, World War One, World War Two. You know, World War Two is a lot mobile based warfare. World War One is like they would stay and not gain any ground for a significant amount of time. But these new emplacements are mainly for just what the new emplacement turrets we're getting. That they'll just give them buffs for just being in there. I still don't think it's gonna solve anything interesting. I mean, it'd be nice. I mean, everyone's been asking for an AT turret to go in, and we finally get it. But it's like I don't know. I feel like it's not really gonna do much for the whole trench gameplay, other than you make an octagon now. Cool.
Yeah, I mean the thing about trenches is, I mean, in my opinion, they're the worst and best things in the game. They're the worst thing if your team builds them. They're the best thing if the enemy team builds them, because if the enemy team builds them, then you just go and take them off them, and then you've got a secure place to siege their lines from. You know what I mean? It's the same case every time, and to really, you've got to think about spreading that word to at least new people that are joining the game and stuff like that, because they think that bringing a shovel to the front and building a trench for the guys is a good idea, when in reality it isn't. And I think the problem with things like this is, obviously with these turrets and stuff like that, with the AT turrets especially. Let's say that there's an AT turret in one of these trenches, and the enemy, being that Warden or Colonial, takes your particular trench off you. Yeah, they then take that trench, they man the AT gun and start destroying your defenses with your own AT gun. You're going to lose the count of the amount of times that's going to happen, guys. Let me tell you now. You know what I mean?
So these in-place defenses are manned by players. They're not AI.
Totally made
Do we
by
have the
players.
slide?
Totally made by players. Also, I just want to bring on the table, because on the topic of getting and losing the guns, Scott put in a pretty good point though, like using them to push, just keep using them to push in a trench network. That might be interesting, but I'm really worried how howitzers, because like there's nothing to really stop howitzers in this update. And I know we're going to talk later about the RT aspect, but I'm just going to put that out there. The howitzers are not included in these deployable trench weapons, so that's going to be interesting there, because I think, as much as I had the same idea when I saw them, like put them down and continue pushing with them, I think they're gonna be easy prey for howitzers. I think that's gonna be the main problem. And then, like Avitus was saying, enemy infantry is gonna just like rush in, take control of your guns, and use them against you.
Yeah.
It's like, I would say the quick thing. Is the next slide the one that has the the actual emplacements, Razor?
I don't know them by heart, but yes, I believe so. Let me switch
I
to
think
that
it, I
one.
mean it really just depends on how robust they are, like from a health perspective, right? Because since they're so stationary, they're vulnerable to all these things.
Well,
Well,
that's the idea.
but-
They get buffs out of being inside of the trench, Kaz.
yeah. So they're going to get a lot of health and things like that when they're inside of a trench. But at the same time, like with these things being manned by actual infantry, they're
Mhm.
going to have to be surrounded by defenses anyway. So they're probably going to have AT guns next
Already
to them
there.
or already there and around them anyway, just to protect the trench. You know what I mean? Because I'm struggling to see how these things are going to be useful. I think they're going to be very circumstantial. When you get them in the right place at the right time, it's going to be one of those things. You know what I mean? You're going to be glad you got them there. You know what I mean? But I don't think these are going to be as wide. Like the first war, maybe into the second war, they will be, because they're a new thing. People want to get their hands on them and see how they sound, see how they handle on all
Thank
that
you
type
for the
of crap.
follow, you
But
non-essential
I think
scum.
after that, it's going to be a case of these things are going to fade out a lot like the FMG did back in the
Mhm.
day. You know what I mean? FMGs are very, very circumstantial. You're going to see them even less now. I mean, who's going
Thank you
to
for the follow,
take
you
an
non-essential
FMG
scum.
over a Jeep which has a machine gun on the back or something like that? You know what I mean? You're going to take anything over an FMG because FMGs are crap.
And I think
Yeah.
that's a good point, though, right? You think about it. FMGs have some value
Thank
because
you
at
for
least
the
they have
follow,
some
you
agility. These things
non-essential
have no
scum.
agility. Moving them around is going to be essentially impossible, and that's where
They're
I think
even
they
more
lose.
circumstantial than the FMG.
Yeah, it's hard to appreciate. And so, the AT gun that's coming up has utility because you can reposition. A lot of the things that we use have utility because it can be repositioned quickly and effectively to where need. Because we talk about lines being static, but lines are very rarely that static. And you think about player behavior. Players very seldom have the patience to just sit on these things and wait for the opportune moment. By the time the moment arrives, they're distracted by butterflies running off in another direction. It's just I find it hard to see this working.
I mean,
So
go ahead. Dal.
I'll chime in because the only thing I could feel like this would be useful, because remember, this comes with two variations. It comes with the FMG version, or the field machine gun version, and the AT version. During the tech tree, I'm pretty sure we'll still get these two versions. It's the mobile versions that will be gambled on. So if we don't get the mobile version, we'll always have the static version.
Right. Okay.
So I guess that's something to maybe I'll have some way, because I mean, why tech the FMG when we already have a emplacement that we can always have? This is purely assuming, by the way.
I mean, that's the only thing that this is really going to do. It's going to make the FMG, or at least the gun that's on the FMG, if you get what I'm saying by that, like useful. You know what I mean? You're going to actually be putting 14.5 into you're going to be shipping 14.5 to the front to put into these guns, because these guns are going to be a lot more useful than the standard FMG, because the circumstantial thing for the FMG at the moment is, I mean, at least, it's got mobility and stuff like that when it's attacking, but at least in defense, it's going to have that boost. You know what I mean? So I can see a little bit of use for the FMG version of it, a lot more so than I can see for the AT version of it.
I just don't know how many times I'm looking for an FMG on defense.
Never.
Absolutely not to, but I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because at the moment, because of the way the FMG is at the moment, they're so easy to take out. Yeah.
Yep.
But if you have a static version of it with a health boost inside a trench, then you might have that survivability to make it a little bit useful. You know what I mean?
I'd just as soon have an HMG and a Foxhole.
Yeah, I know. It's
That's
one of
the
those
thing,
things.
like,
Yeah.
Well, I guess the scenario where, at least in my head, they could be addressed is, low counts on the defending side, big counts on the attacking side, and you have these emplacements around your town or whatever strategic position you're defending. And, on paper, they would buy you more time because they would be a bit harder to take out than conventional defenses by the nature of extra HP and
Sure, HP is something to consider.
you as a player are gonna fire and use them to a way better degree than AI just missing the soldier it's firing at 5 times in a row. It depends on how. There's a lot of things to actually experiment in the dev branch until you can give a a permanent answer. But yeah, overall, I do agree with you guys. They feel niche already. Like they didn't even roll out the factory door, and they already feel like niche
Yeah, it already
equipment.
feels like a recall on the market line for these. But I
Back
know
to the
the
drawing boys.
I know the engineer boys in our clan. They're excited for these, and don't get me wrong, I'm hyped for them. You know, if they get new toys to feel somewhat help. You know, I'm pretty sure they will feel happy if something's finally attacking their trench line that's so far in the back, and they hop
Yeah.
into the gun. And well, I don't want to spoil what actually will happen, but you know.
Well, I suppose in that sense, like if you look at it from a combat engineer's point of view, if they've got one of these things in place behind a defensive line or just in the midst of a defensive line, at least it's going to be a force multiplier for them when they're having to face off against 20 colonial infantry, for instance. If these turrets get the option to load, like for instance, a shrapnel round or something like that, then I can see a use for them, blowing holes in large formations of infantry. Charging a trench. That might be useful. But I mean, there's 1,000 scenarios where it could work. There's 1,000,000 scenarios where it won't. You know what I mean? That's what we're trying to boil it down to. So, shall we move on?
Yes, absolutely. Let's keep it going. And we get to something you'll be more excited about. I think.
Speaking about that, it's funny because don't get me wrong. I mean, I love it as probably one of the main guys asking that we need a AT version of Foxhole if done right is the big thing. But I mean, right now, just appreciate it for what it is. But I'm gonna hit you with some hard facts right now, because if a field artillery is trying to snipe a BT and it gets fucking mortared, I'm pretty sure these guns that will not have that range are gonna get fucked. Don't like these will probably be like your ambush type things. Like you only get one time to fucking get a surprise, and then here come the mortar crews trying to fuck you up.
Yeah,
Because I think
it's a bit funny because we're already discussing the weaknesses of it. Well, I guess that's the first thing you look into. But yeah, like you
getting
said,
flashbacks. I mean,
it's the mortar meta right now. I think it would be correct to say that.
mortar is king right in this game. It's like if you ever have any problem, just solve it with mortars. If one mortar isn't enough, get more until it is.
Multiply them until they're gonna solve the issue for you.
Game was fun when 82DK only had that type of tactic, but now everybody's doing it.
Everyone
it's not fun
learns.
anymore.
We don't like it anymore. No.
This is how it feels.
I'm just hoping that for example, the introduction of armor is gonna negate some of that mortar spam. Go ahead, Kaz. I cut you off for that.
No, I was just saying this is something I want to like, but I think Dark's poured cold water all over it for good reasons.
I think
it kind of depends on the health pool. You know what I mean? Like
a lot of the stuff that we're saying is judging the game how it is now. You know what I mean?
It's
and
true,
I think a lot of what this we're going to have to literally wait for the update, play it, and see how it plays before we make a final judgment on it. If we take these things on face value with the game how it is right now, we know that they're very niche and they're probably not going to work. But we'll have to see what changes are made to the game, to how we play the game and how it feels and things like that before we can pass like definite judgment on whether these things are shit.
I will say that this is a lot better than like
Thank
the
you for the
ATM
follow, you
placement in the little
non-essential scum.
hexagon trench. You could still use this in that same utility and then remaneuver it in your defensive line to where it needs to be based on the situation, which makes it better. I don't think this is like the siege aggressive tool that we would be looking for. You know what I mean? Like because we're usually on the aggressive front, so we're usually thinking of it in aggressive context. So for us, I don't know how much utility there will be here, but
I do think this is like what we were saying earlier. It's a niche, very specific scenario type that we'll most likely use. Again, proven until when the actual update happens. But I mean, if they want to play it safe, they have to only limit this equipment by only letting it have one type of shell. Because if you have anything else, you're just gonna ruin its. And pretty much it's gonna be like, oh, okay, we have a easier to handle. Like why bring a tank when you could bring an AT gun that's just gonna destroy the defenses.
Yep.
And the last aspect I would consider is what Dark was putting on. I think these things are going to be extremely popular with bushes.
Yeah, you gotta. The bushes are gonna speak fucking metal now.
To be honest with you, I think it should be an option for these things to become camouflaged in some way. Like maybe that you can build, spend 20 B mats
A
and
net and some
get
leaves.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And that I could see a use for it then. You know what I mean? I can see a use for these things on like river defense and stuff like that, especially with the improvements to waterlogging and stuff like that. I can see them getting a lot of kills on the river.
And they already have the camouflage mechanic for players, so I mean, it'd be a little jank, but you could even duplicate that to this
that's
model
Kind
somehow.
of, yeah, kind of.
That's the thing that'd be fucking awesome, wouldn't it? Just to be able to add camouflage netting to either defenses or emplacements, and like that's what fucking that's why it's a little niche thing that makes the you doing it feel more immersed and also have a good utility for it.
I tell you when these things are going to shine. These things aren't going to shine straight away. You're going to get them in the first war, you're going to play them for a few wars, and you're going to think they're shit and you're going to stop making them. Then they're going to bring in towing for things like Jeeps and things like that. And that's when these things are going to become useful, because you'll be able to pull up a Jeep, you'll know that a tank's coming down a certain road because your scouts have told you about it. You'll be able to pull up on a cross section, dismount the artillery, or even better, keep it attached to your Jeep or whatever, if there's an option for that. Hop on the artillery gun, shoot it in the tracks, and then pull away and get another squad to blow up or something like that. You know what I mean? That's just off the top of my head, but that's where you could use them in a sort of ambushy skirmish situation. You know what I mean? But like I said, like we said before, these things are going to be nicher than people are going to think they are. You know what I mean? They're going to be widely used in the first war, and then I think people are going to understand that they've got their limits. But we'll have to see.
Also, a nice point by Scott. Tier 3 vehicles apparently get some camo, but it's only paint camo. I don't know how effective that's gonna be.
It's
though.
just it's just aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like they just look the badass version. That's it. That's what it is.
Right. Let's keep going. And this is gonna be pretty complicated, if you ask me.
It's fucking funny how like they made the. We all knew what the issues with the Warden BT were. It's like everyone knew what the fuck. It just looked ugly.
Well, go back one stream. We were talking about it last stream, dude, with those exposed tracks, and now look at this. You know what I mean? Next week,
juiced up and ready for war. I love the BT now. Looking at it, it's like, okay, I can't complain. I still can complain, but I do like that it's more tactically covered and it just looks more juiced up.
Yeah, and that's a little interesting idea on the Colonial one as well, with that extra padding that it's meant to give it more HP, I guess.
I feel like that looks more like an aesthetic based thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure it will have a gameplay.
Yeah,
But
HP based.
also think though, if you look at the turret, I don't think that's the original. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it looks like an extra padding on the turret.
Seems so, especially that hatch above. I'm not 100% sure either, but
The hatch was always there. I'm talking about
chat is gonna
the
correct us anyway. Don't worry. The general idea is we're gonna have variants on tanks as well, which was something to be expected, and I guess it's gonna be interesting. Because I know we don't have a Puma, but I am having my fingers crossed for like a light tank that gives up maybe health and damage for speed, for example. Just make
it's
it.
going to be an armored car variant. I'm telling you, someone's going to get it.
Oh, just okay. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't mind. For like an armored car to have like a Puma. That would make sense to me. If it's
I think a lot of people are concerned about tanks getting tracked, but I think not what people haven't really talked about is like vehicles getting their tires popped and things like that. You know what I mean? Because you're in an armored car. Think about how many times frag grenades land next to your armored car, or how many times people are saying, "Oh, well, with the new armor system, the armored car is going to be useful." Well, not really, because armored cars, they might have more health and more resistance to small arms, yes, but they also have exposed rubber tires, which are going to get popped all the time. You lose your mobility and get sticky grenade.
Well, I guess it's going to be interesting to see if they actually going to be affected by that mechanic, because they talked about the tanks getting affected by that mechanic, but nothing about the like half trucks or the
Well, they're saying that it's saying everything's got modular damage.
Oh, everything. Okay, I might have missed that part. I guess I was just assuming. Well, it's just.
I would say if they're putting it in for tanks, they're putting it in for everything, especially if they're saying that like
I'm with you.
like trucks are going to be harder to stop with small arms and stuff like that. Like all vehicles are going to have some type of resistance to small arms in some way. I would say that like that's probably going to affect all vehicles. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially,
I do hope that's the case. I really do hope, because like it's just gonna give that extra layer. Everybody really, I know it's gonna be fucking awful for the crew. I'm kind of seeing it like, because a thing that somebody brought to light. I don't remember exactly who started the discussion about it, but apparently you can have more than one status affecting your vehicle at one time. So the real fun happens when you get tracked and your turret is disabled and your fucking fuel is leaking as well. If you get what
So
yeah.
one thing, and I'm just reading right now what Scott said, and I agree. I would love to see where, since they're adding like your tracks getting disabled, your turret can get disabled. I think they should remove the minimum HP where your tank just stops, because I feel like if you're already adding things that are gonna fuck over moving the vehicle, it should also remove the 25 HP
Well,
and it stops moving.
I would
That's interesting.
imagine that is how they're probably going to. Well, I would hope that's how they're going to work it anyway, because like that was the method of determining when the tank would get disabled, when it reached a certain health pool. But then that's back when the tank was one big block of health, like it is at the moment. You know what I mean? It's one big block of health at the moment. Now, with obviously modular damage, that's going to be different. So,
So we hope.
so we hope. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, you know what I mean? It's a hard thing to ask for logic sometimes, but hopefully that's how it's going to work.
I feel like I feel like it's good for Logi as well, just for like if they're gonna get disabled, let it be that their tires are get popped out from the partisans actually being smart to, okay guys, we can't go for the kill because we have to slow them down first, and we'll get them.
Well, what I'm hoping is that like it requires some kind of like more, what's the word, like organizational skills from the partisans and stuff like that. Let's say that you need to take your squad in, instead of having 5 guys with SMGs just trouncing an entire map's worth of logi. If you have 4 guys with SMGs and 1 guy that you had to babysit with a rocket launcher, for instance, to stop trucks, that's not a problem for me. You know what I mean? But they needed to do something about logi. Hopefully, it's going to make partisan a little bit harder and make it logi a little bit easier on the guys.
Let's keep the ball going here.
Yeah.
Right, because we are talking about naval security. Here it is in all its glory. The
Love to see
Gumbo.
here.
Point like this,
Hold on.
Yeah, I've got some pretty strong opinions on that, to tell you the truth. However, like my days of manning gunboats are quite behind me. You know what I mean? Like I used to play on the old Fahrenheit map. For those vets who still remember that was a complete hellscape. But I remember I remember playing on that and sinking entire fleets worth of boats with the first iteration of the gunboat. And with this variant, like I'm not sure how I'd be very interested to hear if we've got any Warden Navy in the chat, like what they think about this. Because I mean, immediately upon them say, because I suspected this was going to be a thing from like day one. You know what I mean? Like I suspected eventually there was going to be a gunboat coming out with 2 cannons instead of 1 FMG sort of thing. Now, for what the gunboat's used for, which is obviously coastal bombardment and things like that, in its role, this is going to be extremely effective. And I think what you're going to see more and more is you'll probably see one of these variants accompanied by 2 of the regular variants, where they've got like a driver, got an FMG gunner in both of the other 2, and then you're going to have all of your artillery potential locked up in this one boat. Obviously, there is pros and cons to that. You're going to be able to dish out an extremely effective bombardment on enemy vehicles and things like that, especially if they like have new artillery shells for these things, like armor penetrating shells and stuff like that. If that's a thing, then that's potentially very good. What I have a problem with about this is that obviously it's very, very vulnerable to things like APCs with sticky grenades and things like that. And if these things are taken out by experienced crews, I'm sure they'll do very well. But less experienced crews are going to find it very, very difficult to defend these things if they encounter the enemy in open water.
I think I didn't mean to cut you off and chime in, but
Yeah, it's
even the
alright.
normal gunboat like has that problem. Like APCs with stickies, it's like you're gone. You get me? Like if
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
to be fair, guys, the APC got nerfed recently. I mean, I know it's still pretty strong against them, but now because of the turning rate and the speed, it's not that much of a one-sided battle anymore.
I get that. But let's just say, let's put them up against a colonial gunboat, for instance, with a normal variant. Yeah, a normal variant gunboat running one of these things, it's going to be like field day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as soon as this, I mean, these things aren't going to be able to take you out at distance unless they see you before you see them, sort of thing. If the colonial gunboat closes the distance before this thing even sees it, or able to get away or whatever like that, it's going to be an easy meal for it, because there's nothing that can fire back at it. However, if that front gun can fire, like for instance a tank can, holy shit, this thing's going to be like unstoppable. You know what I mean? If that thing can click forward into like an AT gun position or something like that, or if that's just what it is instead of an artillery gun, that would just be amazing. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the
Exactly.
Lord and Navy does with it. I'm sure those guys will make some use for it.
Yeah, I mean it's good for that they got something a little. Oh, stop!
Oh my god!
Surprise! So you guys remember how Kaz was kind of complaining a bit because this update is all about vehicles and nothing for infantry. Here you go, Kaz. Tell us about how you're going to be utilized.
Thank God.
Finally,
The change we
something
needed.
for the infantryman, for the casual Joe.
We're
on the
drafting
front
all
line.
of our best men from every section into the new unicycle battalion.
Jesus Christ, dude.
We're gonna learn to use bayonets from the top of these things. So they'll assist. They're not unicycles. They're called bayonet charge assisters. So yeah.
I mean, we laugh, but they already put the effort of making everything from the animation to everything in this. So if they ever decide to put them in, be careful FA guns everywhere because
That's something that's always puzzled me about them. You know what I mean? They make it. They think of something the night before and they think, oh, that's good. That'd be super cool. That'd be a funny joke to put in the game, and they put it in like better than some of the other stuff that they've put out officially. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, who can forget the what's it called? Like the the Titan thing, the like the Dreadnought thing. Holy shit, from Halloween! Like, why the fuck isn't that in the game? Like, that looks amazing. You want to get your game out there. It's not part of the vision, guys. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, it looks amazing. Put it in the battlefield.
To your point, it just seems like there are some activities like this that they get a lot of attention. There are other things that are neglected that are so puzzling. And so, not to digress too far, but like even weapon balance, we have certain weapons and items in the game that see essentially no use, and that could use some fine tuning. A little bit, like the shotgun and the revolver, for instance, are essentially dead weapons, except for extraordinarily silly situations. So,
yeah,
why are we not tuning these things between wars?
I think that's the biggest frustration that we have as veterans of the game is they can easily like it's just numeric values to change.
Yeah.
Like, it's not making something new to fix the problem. Is you have the problem, just tweak it internally. You know what I mean? It's just like how hard is to
It doesn't have to be right, but try.
Yeah,
like,
just try
fine
and
tune something. Do it for a war, and then change it for the next war.
And then and then also being what's the word? Being very it's coming out. I can't think about the exact word, but just be honest. I can't spit it out, but it'll come to me soon. Like shadow patching things is honestly one of the worst things. I don't mean to spiel about other random stuff, but
for sure,
adding things without telling people in the patch notes is probably one of the worst things you could ever do, and it builds a disconnection.
That's kind of why that I was saying earlier on. We're going to have to wait to see how the game plays.
100%.
Like these guys have told us how this is going to, things are going to be. But we have no idea the numbers that have been changed behind closed doors. You know what I mean? We might pick the game up again, and storm rifles have like suddenly become the meta. You know what I mean? And howitzer damage has been drastically reduced and things like that. You know what I mean?
One thing is almost certain. I'm looking forward to see this thing return for Halloween because we know, there's gonna be back for like Halloween or for some special event. There's no way it's not coming back for something like that. So without further ado,
Yeah, fucking skip this because Jesus, we spent way too long on this live.
Oh wow. Okay, drive me closer so I can hit them with my sword. It's funny, you know what I mean? Because it's like, do I have to be the one to say it? Like, do I have to be the one to say it to like? This clearly looks like something. Anybody
Just
want to
say it
take a guess
already.
at what it looks like?
Come on,
Anyone in
Commissar. You're the
anyone in chat?
Commissar.
Anyone in
Say
chat
it.
want to guess?
Chad already
Fuck me.
knows. They've been knowing for years now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, and it's sort of like I see it hopefully as a silent nod to them acknowledging the fact that we're like the children of the Emperor, and we will
See,
not stop
They're answering.
until Lehman Russ, of course. And the only thing that's left now is my officer cap and my optional chainsaw to wave from the top of it, and I will die a happy man.
So the most like discussed thing is the second gun's, let's call it, mobility or less of mobility. It's
I
like
think
the
it's the
most
first
debated
gun
thing.
actually. The main
Actually,
armament is the whole mounted.
yes, I guess that
gun.
makes sense more. You're right.
This is just me. Don't get me wrong. I mean, hyped for something like this. It's not my personal interest. I think there's big flaws with it, but we'll talk about that later. But the simple fact that the front the front hole has like no road, or the front hole, the front mounted turret has absolutely no rotation is kind of shitty. Like you just
Mhm.
completely leave it all to the driver's like pretty much the role for it now is straight for the driver to fucking adjust and fire, to not fire but to aim it.
Something that I have concern about with this as well is like when this thing's obviously engaging, it's going to be engaging targets from the front. Yeah, with the new modular damage system, the majority of the shells are going to be coming straight at this thing's front armor. You know what I mean? Or that's at least what the tank wants. You know what I mean? For all the shells to be coming at its front armor. But with the main gun mounted on the front of the tank, how is that going to affect the health of
Right.
it itself? You know what I mean? So yeah, you're going to be hitting your front armor. That's all well and good, but you're also going to be losing your main armament while you're at it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. It's gonna have to be played and sort of and assessed that way. In all honesty, I think the colonial version of this tank is going to actually come in a lot more handy because this is it's quite versatile in the fact that it's got a turret, so it can join formations and join in line tank battles and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be a very, very valuable target. So putting this thing on the front line in a tank line is going to be extremely risky due to its size, the size of its engine. Things like mortar blobs and stuff like that are going to have a field day shooting the fuck out of these things.
We
You know
already
what I mean?
talked a little bit about like the challenges of like an FMG in the arc, of using that FMG and making sure it's positioned right. And this is even more restrictive than that, with higher value munitions and lower fire rate. And so depending on how, like, again, the agility of it, like how quickly you can turn it, there's a high skill ceiling here that maybe gives it some potential for really, and that's encouraging, right? High skill ceiling things are good, but it may be like the base floor of it may be so low it's just
I mean,
unwielable.
the more I'm looking at this tank, the more like I see its vulnerabilities. I mean, it's like
Sure.
you look at the tank's design. Yeah, look at the tank's design. That's a great picture of it. You know, you got right. You're shooting at the front of the tank. You're either going to hit its gun, the tiny bit of armor, or the two tracks, because both the two tracks have got no front guard on them. That they're gone. You know what I mean? You want to hit this thing with a mortar? Well and good. Can you go back to the previous slide for this one?
Sure.
Go back to the previous slide. 2 secs. So you see the top of the tank there? You want to hit this thing's engine? No problem. You aim for its engine. You miss a
Free real
little bit?
estate.
No problem. You're hitting the top of its tracks. You know what I mean? It's like, why do the wardens like not like get the fact that you need to cover your fucking tracks? You know what I mean? It's like why do they go for the design option of like, no, we want the tracks exposed because it looks cooler. It's like, all right, okay, but you're gonna get fucking mortared and you're gonna lose your tracks all the time.
So,
you know, and that's all I can think about
I
it.
think
I think its biggest You go, Razor.
No, I just saw earlier something from Scott that I found really funny because he was saying like, imagine the comms with two gunners, gunner fire, you know, like they both fire or none fires, or who fires?
Being a driver is going to be a thankless job with this thing. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
only do wrong.
Yeah,
think
you're fucking right with that.
I think if you crewed this thing a certain way, like just say you loaded shrapnel shells in the top turret and you just said to the top gunner, defenders against infantry, while you commanded the main body of the tank as like an AT gun or something like that, or anti-defenses or whatever. I think it could work like that, and I think that's how this tank's going to be run. To tell you the truth, the top turret isn't going to be for anti-tank; it's more probably going to be for anti-infantry and defending the tank itself, while the main gun below does the real damage. That's how I hope it's going to work anyway. But like I said, there's a lot of design flaws on this thing, so we'll have to see how it plays.
Is it like if it's just a siege tank against buildings, you got the time. There's like stationary targets, you can figure it out. But I don't know.
Possibly, that's the hope, is that the front gun is a more of a like a howitzer based. It's actually meant for sieging. We don't actually know, other than it's made just for assaulting in general. They ain't really.
This thing, can you imagine if that gun is just a field artillery gun?
Oh,
That's just a field artillery built into the tank. Oh, God, we'd walk over them every
then
day.
I would
stop.
literally
We're
zip
gonna
up my
stop.
mouth
Yeah,
right now.
exactly.
Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up.
Everybody's gonna just not complain ever again if that's the case.
Yeah.
Just field like 20 of these and say goodbye.
Yeah.
But one last statement that I want to make on it is, Razor, can you go to the next slide? I think it showcases what I'm about to say a little better, where it has all the stats.
Oh, stats, sure.
I think it has it. Okay, so it does. So my thing is, this is gonna suffer from what the Storm tank originally was. The main issue for it is that it's too fucking long. Like, sure, like it's made to always front attack, but when you ever engage a tank, you never engage it full like straight ahead. You always want to get the flank of it, and this one is like, if you're not near perfect, it's so long that no matter what, you'll get the side, you'll hit its side no matter what. Just as how like natural mobility, most tanks have. And I don't know, I just think like it's very, very specific to, or it's going to be real difficult to really get a comprehension on this, because I feel like it's just going to get disabled tracks almost every day.
I think this is going to have a role in a large. It's going to be one of those things where if it rolls alone, it just dies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those things. Like, this thing needs to be a part of a large tank formation. It cannot be on its own. This thing is going to need tank support. If it's at the center, if this thing's flanked by two BTs, for instance, it's going to do a lot of damage. You know what I mean? Because it's going to have the adequate support that it needs to do that damage. But if this thing is on its own with just a bunch of infantry, for instance, it's going to be extremely vulnerable and it's going to die a fuck ton. And people are going to probably not use it after the first. I honestly can't see these big tanks being used as much in the new update because of the modular damage system, and just
But you
because.
think about it, if you got two PDs, do you really need this?
No.
It depends on cost and material wise, I guess,
Yeah.
in the end, really. But I feel like for us that doesn't really factor in, because we can always rely on our people to pretty much give us the max amount of resources. It's just, what do you want and how much do you want of it?
Well, I think
it's
at this point, this is like just everything, that passes our mind while just looking at the minimum information we have. Like you guys said, there's nothing we can actually give a verdict on. It's just like how it feels right now with what we know now.
I mean,
do we want it to work?
Well,
we all want
we
it.
could get into the game, and like, we could be completely wrong, and
Exactly.
I hope
Yeah.
that's the case. You know what I mean? I really do. But I have a sneaky suspicion that we're not.
I
I have a sneaky suspicion that this thing is not going to be very useful unless it's flanked by a lot of supporting vehicles and things like that.
I'm not gonna lie, I sinned. I actually kind of like the idea of the driver and the gunner working so closely to aim that gun, but then there's a lot of other questions, like you guys said, especially about the vulnerabilities of the tank. Like, you need time. You need time to get the driver and the gunner to sync up on what they want to do, and working under pressure is always part of Foxhole. But at this, in the same breath, if you can't stay alive enough to even like acquire experience, like I was like Shiv was discussing uh, with somebody recently, that they were arguing basically, um, you know, it's not a problem that the tanks die so easily because they're not meant there for everybody. They're meant there for experienced people. But you acquire experience by using it. How can you use it if you always die in 60 seconds?
Yeah, that's something that I brought up last stream, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like a group of friends come on to Foxhole, they want to use this thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. When this is in one of our formations, when it is in another clan's formation, you know what I mean, that's got experience with tanks and things like that, this thing's going to shine. We're going to find a use for it. We're going to make it work more than likely, because when we're given these types of things, it always finds a place to shine somewhere along the road. You know what I mean? But when I'm seeing this is when this is crewed by people that don't really know what they're doing, don't have a lot of experience in tanks, maybe you're new to Foxhole or something like that. Yeah, when those types of people are crewing this thing, they're taking it and they're getting it killed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's going to be even worse than light tanks. You know what I mean? Because this thing is just super vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like, I can see it right now. The more that I look at it, the more vulnerabilities I can see on it, and I'm hoping that this thing's going to have a pretty low price tag, and it's not going to be anywhere near the battle tank.
I think it's going to suffer from the aiming problems that an FMG has right now,
And
even
be
then,
10 times worse.
And in no way it's gonna be cheap. That I can already put money down, especially because of the role and how they present them. Both this one and the colonial
I mean,
siege tank are gonna both be
maybe,
extremely expensive, I think.
I mean, they're saying that we're going to do variants on tanks, so we'll have to see what the variants look like on this thing. You know what I mean? The tier 2 version of it might have a more maneuverable gun, for instance, or something like that. Or, the tier 3 version might have, a longer range gun or something like that. We just don't know. You know what I mean?
I would have a different opinion. Even if you had like a 15-degree rotation, something, but 0-degree rotation, like that's so crippling. That's really, really tough.
like there's enough space. I could see it through that crack right there. There's enough to get a little wiggle room. Like all you need is just at least the gunner to feel like he can control where he's aiming at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about it. This thing loses its tracks. It's so dead. Like, I mean, it's even deader than like a light tank would be. You know what I mean? At least I mean, this thing can defend itself, obviously, with a top turret and stuff like that, but it's a huge target. And this thing gets disabled, it's not going to stand a fucking chance.
And I've seen like BTs that have sometimes like getting their gunner and their driver on the same page, even with the independence that they enjoy. Like that, like you almost need the tank commander to be in this gunner seat. You know, like it's so it's so weird.
Anywho, I think we've been at it for a while here. Just gonna spring in on the last little thing. Now, before I hand it over to Dark, as this is obviously regarding him more than anybody else, I do wanna put out there that according to the dev team, the howitzers are not shipping out with the rest of the stuff into the trenches and such, and it's not out of just luck or something. They are keeping them outside of the trenches and such because they have bigger plans. So that points into another update, soon update after this one, that will look into artillery closely from what they're saying, and it's gonna revamp stuff there. But that's about all the disclaimer I have. Go ahead, Dark.
So I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, ever since we been doing the podcast, and I always wanted to do my 2 cents on what artillery could be. And right now, it's really like, you can call it artillery, yeah, but in the end of the day, the field artillery in game is just like a giant sniper rifle that just does a lot of damage. Like it's crazy how you have a rifle and you fire it and you can still miss, but the field gun can almost always hit its target as long as it has its capable crew to align the coordinates right. And to me, it very much almost always discourages any type of like coordinating with more than, I would say, like one gun. If you ever bring like more than one gun for any occasion, you're almost always just wasting resources, manpower, for something that has a high risk with not really much of a reward for it. Sure, you could bring 3 FAs and focus on a town hall, but you'll lose so much because of how the game has always portrayed artillery. Going for like the howitzer, I think the howitzer probably is one of the most kind of accurate in some form of artillery. It has the AOE spread and the like
At
the
least
R.
has some variance, doesn't it?
What was that?
It at least has some variance in its fire pattern.
Yeah. So it's like you don't know where it's gonna hit, but you know it's gonna hit somewhere around you, and it's the splash is big enough so that way it's not a small little crater where you can be like, oh, I'm not worried, it's not gonna fuck me up. But another thing with the same problem with the howitzer is, or with all the artillery, both of them, is 150 meters back in the day in one map when they were so small, that was big. Like 150 meters was very, limiting or very large back when Foxhole only had like one map per server and they were smaller maps at that. Now, we have much wider and bigger maps, and I think it's time and change for increasing, general artillery's range, because 150 meters is you're practically at the front line. You cannot fire efficiently because you're always in fear that you're going to lose your gun. And I feel like the stress and reward for it is not really good for at least healthy like artillery-esque gameplay, because you feel like if you don't get the exact coordinates of what you need, you're going to just fuck it up. And how accurate you have to be to use the FA. With the howitzer, you can be a little more relaxed, but once you hit that one target you built the 150 meters for, that's pretty much it. That spot is now done, and you have to go on with the CV to build your next spot. And it's like, it's not really, you can't enjoy, any type of like any type of thrilling or enjoyment from that, because it's too just fucking, it's, to me, it's just too short. I don't want to go into a spiel on that, but my thing is they need to take a note from Company of Heroes and how they work their artillery, where the longer distance you go, the wider that its spread becomes.
So
And of course,
the more the distances increase. So let's say that they doubled the effective range of artillery to 300 meters, let's say. But once you pass the 150 mark, it becomes inaccurate. So it's got more of a spread like a howitzer. You know what I mean? So if you're wanting to shell a town from, behind your lines, yeah, you can do it, but you're not going to be hitting your target every time. Maybe 1 in 10 you're hitting your target. And if you're doing things like that, then you can start to get artillery emplacements in your lines that are continually bombarding the city. Even if it is inaccurately, it'll still portray the fact that there is artillery hitting a target in their back line, rather than having to wheel it into mortar range every time you want to use it. You know what I mean?
of course. And with that, I think they need to increase the general AOE of the standard shell. And I think I'll talk about this more later, but like the standard blast is nowhere for the amount of resources and technically what you put inside of it. The artillery blasts are literally like smaller than a fucking grenade. A grenade has more of a blast range than the artillery shell. And with that, it should have a new effect where any infantry are nearby, it gets shell shocked, and it could be something they could really tweak on, where if your character gets hit by, they're not hit by it, but they're near the blast, it could go with a simple like a light ping, so that way it's not ringing your ears, to like actual distortion from your character in game, or your accuracy is horrible because you're getting suppressed by artillery. Defenses could start slowly becoming more suppressed as the more they get shelled.
Yeah,
And
I think that could. I mean, the most effective artillery gun at taking out infantry in the game that I've seen from its standard shell is actually the gunboat shell. That's quite devastating when it hits infantry. It kills a lot of them, and I think that damage model for the standard shell for the field artillery would go a long way. But suppressing defenses with howitzers and things like that, yeah, that needs to be a thing, dude. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point.
And I think
And
it also, sorry, Dark, just like, because I was thinking about what you guys were discussing, and I think it would also like really improve the mood of the game. Like when you're sieging a city, actually having constant bombardment, that is not like, it's not
Yeah.
gonna take out the city, not even close. But the actual fact of it, and having a
That's
proper
exactly.
siege, and like you spawn into the town under siege, random artillery just landing everywhere.
You know
Just
what?
think about it.
That is, you might think I'm kidding you. That is exactly what I was thinking about. You know what I mean? You spawn into a town. There's a shell goes off on a house across the street. You're like, oh, holy shit! The town's being shelled, sort of thing. But it's not accurate fire. You know what I mean? They're not taking down garrison houses left, right, and center. You know what I mean? You have time to go out and repair these things, and they're not bombarding your town hall so much that you can't spawn, for instance. But there are shells landing in the town randomly, so you've got to think about placement of trucks and things like that, and all that type of thing. I think that would be a really good addition to the game, to tell you the truth. That needs to happen. Now that I think about it, like doubling the range of artillery and making it inaccurate would be. I mean, I know it would obviously play fucking hell in some scenarios, but I think it would be a really good addition.
So this the thing is, like, it encourages more to bring more guns to the front or to the barrage, so you can actually do that. In the game, you don't feel encouraged to do a barrage because one gun is literally just as good as three. Like, one gun with HE shells is a lot better than three with HE shells. You know what I mean? Like, instead of you gain it down in 3 minutes, or not 3 minutes, it's HE shells, for Christ's sake. For like 1 minute, you'll get it in like 30 seconds. But here you can encourage, like, let's bring up three guns to the front. We got the general coordinates. It makes spotting more pleasable because you're not trying to hit anything specific. You're just trying to hit that general area, and then you just okay, we're gonna spend these shells, and all this it builds more to like the enjoyment of, you feel like you're in a siege now, like just like you described it perfectly on that. And with that as well, I think not everything needs to be a buff with that. I think howitzer does fire way too fucking fast, and this is just me. I always feel like always had like a loader, like someone in the back that could just pick up the shell and like at least look like it's loading, or in general just or increase the howitzer reload length, because one gun does fire extremely fucking fast. Like, I remember I fired a howitzer gun once at a fort, and all the colonials were just like holy shit, how many howitzers did you guys fire? And it's like, it's just one, dude. I just know how to fucking
Yeah.
And this is just last thing I'll probably go is standardization of all howitzers, of all artillery shells should just almost always be in the same like vein of it. You should have your standard high explosive, a standard shell, and then a smoke shell. These three should just be for all artillery in all fucking ranges. Like, there should not be like only specific ones, because this is just me, because right now they gave the armor piercing round for the FA because people were using it to snipe. So now they increased that gameplay, but that's really not where its field is supposed to be. You're not supposed to be using an FA to pinpoint and destroy a tank. If you have the skill enough to get it and risk it within the new confines of its range, you can go for it. But at the moment now, it's like it never really was that enjoyable. I mean, when they made howitzers, the most static thing, they gave it smoke rounds, and it's like great. So when you want to assault something, bring a CV, build it, load the shells, then fire. At that point, it's like, what the fuck? Like, why wasn't this on either on the mortar or on the FA? Like smoke rounds are a thing in both those things. Yeah, it's just I could just dream. You know what I mean? I could preach to the world about whatnot, but
it's a good idea. Like, the only thing I think of when you mentioned like more variants on shells, we got a few guys with storm clouds over their heads, and those shells are going to hit them every time. It's going to be the best if there was that kind of variance. Like,
God damn you, dog!
It's just like every time you respawn, I have it. Just can't get away from me. It just gets shelled every time. Runs 5 meters away from the shell.
Suggest this. Why?
And we're just all going to stay away from him. Just let him eat the shells first. It's going to be great.
I think probably the closing statement I have is and I think they might do this. They might tweak the mortar because they know the mortar is definitely strong right now. It's the meta of pretty much since for us, it's been the meta for about 2 years going for the whole game. It's becoming the new meat and potatoes of how to engage any problem in Foxhole. I think that also needs I think in general they need to give it like the howitzer treatment. It needs to have a wider spread, and its damage value needs to be tweaked where it shouldn't be like reliably penetrating armor from the top. I know it's weak, don't get me wrong, but I think what mortars are typically packed in, they're not really packing that much firepower to really penetrate anything, right? You military fanatics out there can correct me, but I'm pretty sure a mortar should not be able to, like be destroying BT, especially how we are utilizing them, like en masse. And again, like the mortar shouldn't be a stranger to the long range increase as well, but just give the simple fact its range needs to be spread out.
It's 2
If it's-
pinpoint.
Exactly. It's too pinpoint for when you use it. Again, if you want to use it within it's real hard to say, because if you're saying that like, oh yeah, give it 50 meters, it's still back to its accuracy. We still have the problem of just get enough mortars until you can fucking destroy something. But that's just me and my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can wrap it up now. I think we've got a lot off your chest there, Dark.
Thank you. It's been like fucking I think a year since last time.
Yeah, well,
I think I didn't do it any justice. I'm pretty sure I went on to a tangent, but
well,
it is
there'll
what
be
it
other
is.
streams, dude, and we're more than happy to let you vent. That's obviously what the stream's for. We talk about the things that we believe that need to be said about the game that we all love. You know what I mean? That aren't said elsewhere and need to be heard by other people. That being said, I think the next stream we might do a little bit of question and answer and stuff from people. So if you've got any questions that or subjects you want us to talk about, guys, have a think about that for the next stream. Just something quickly that I noticed in chat there from Benedict. Yeah, I've often wondered that as well, dude. Like I've often wondered why there isn't at least a version of the Watchtower that can be enterable. And maybe increase the range of binos or something like that, or for snipers or something. That would be a really good addition to the game, I think. But that being said, is there anything you guys want to say in closing?
I mean, in closing, and I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna stay on dark subject because I want to close on that.
Sure.
Make the arty gun not die to one fucking sticky. That's fucking so annoying on so many levels. That's my that's my closing statement. Thank you.
Don't start on the artillery discussion part 2. I'll discuss on the sticky situation.
Yeah, we can definitely discuss the sticky situation on artillery next time. Kaz, you got anything for us, dude?
No, enjoyed being here today. Thank you.
Right, not
I feel like
a problem.
you spoke less on this stream than you did in the last one where you had limited
Stop
time.
judging him, Jesus.
No, I spoke at the parts that I had something to offer.
Yeah, he didn't have much to talk about this stream because we didn't really talk a great deal about infantry. But I'm sure
it's unfortunate because this patch is not really concerning infantry, which
No. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. And remember to always cook your grenades, guys. Fry them up nicely. Get that Michelin 5-star, Gordon Ramsay. And we'll see you in the new update. Catch you later, guys.
Run out of your foxholes, boys.